to Queens, and today we are talking to Courtney. We're really excited about this interview. Let me go ahead and bring her in. She had a I believe has CDH1. Oops. Let's see.
Is she not there? What happened?
Invite, there we go. Okay. If you guys haven't checked out her page, it's the EO Seahorse, and it's super fun. She's very health conscious, just like we are.
She does the essential oils
Yeah.
and lots of good food and gardening and all sorts of stuff.
Yes, very health conscious, which we can appreciate. So let's see if she's
Hope
going
you
to
all are
join.
having a good day. Fall is definitely in the air.
It is a little warm in here. Maybe we should open that window.
Seriously? Okay, I might get chilly.
Really? Oh, I guess so. Hi!
Hello, how's it going?
How are you?
Doing pretty good, although I'm sick with COVID, so there's that.
Oh my God! COVID? We saw that you were
it's
sick.
Yeah, I've been sick for a few days, so I'm on the tail end of it, which is good, but if you've had COVID, you know how annoying it is.
Yeah.
So,
what were your symptoms? Were you coughing and...
Oh yeah, itchy throat, coughing, nasal congestion, fatigue, you know, all those things.
Well, you look great.
Yeah,
and you're
do.
still smiling.
Thanks. How are you guys?
Good. I was just telling my Taylor about your story this morning. I was at the doctor, so I was reading it and not listening to it. And for some reason, I thought that you were saying that there was a bear in your yard. But it was your dog's name is Bear.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, there's a bear in her yard. You got to look at this. And we're like,
I was like, it wasn't a bear, it was our dog.
That is so funny.
I was like, I think she's in Phoenix, so how's there a bear? Like,
yeah, no bear in our yard, just our dog Bear.
yeah.
We actually named him Bear because he was out in the yard one night and it was dark out and he looked like a bear from far away. We're like, oh my gosh, we have to name him Bear.
Oh, cute. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we're so glad that you could join us today, even though you aren't feeling well. We're excited to hear about your journey.
Yeah,
with the CDH1 gene.
Of course. Yeah, I love that you guys spread so much awareness for CDH1, and I love following you guys and watching your stories and all your recipes and everything. So, thank you. Yeah,
you spread a lot of awareness too. We were just telling everybody that they need to go check out your page.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's just one of those things, you know, like as much awareness that we can bring to it so we can like raise more money. And I know you guys are part of the NIH study too. So to make a difference for our kids.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have 2 kids, right?
Yeah, I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what it's all about. That's all that really matters, right? Is our kids.
Right. And I just hope, like, I have so much faith that, you know, in 10 years, there's going to be some other option.
Right. Well, that's what Perry Guilford's working on right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So why don't you take us back to when you discovered that you carried the CDH1 mutation?
So I'm going to go like way back. So my dad was diagnosed with stomach cancer in 2007. He was him and I weren't like super close, but my parents were divorced. I didn't live with him for a long time, but he was diagnosed and he was very overweight and didn't take care of himself. So I just thought, like, he didn't take care of himself. He got cancer. Like, I don't know what to say about that. And he was diagnosed and they gave him 3 months to live, and he lived for 3 months, and it was just like this whirlwind of what the heck just happened. And him and I got really close during his treatment and everything, and he was the person that wanted to fight all the way to the very end and I even went with him on some of his appointments to his oncologist for his follow-ups and stuff, and I would hear the doctor say, like, treatment's not really working. And he would hear, it's not getting any worse. So he just kept fighting.
Oh.
Yeah.
We need that fighter attitude.
Yeah, so right? So fast forward to like 2018. I had gotten, my gynecologist had been talking to me for years about getting tested for all the breast cancer genes because I have a strong family history of breast cancer on my mom's side. Like my mom had it before the age of 40. My grandma had it twice before the age of 40. So she finally convinced me, it was that time in my life, okay, I should probably get tested. And even being in the medical field, I didn't really understand that there was 41 different genes in this panel. You know, I was just like, oh, she's testing me for BRCA, whatever. So we get the results back. I'm BRCA negative. I got another sheet of paper I didn't really understand. And I was like, okay, great. And I just like pushed it aside. That was probably like October, November of, it was actually 2017. And then fast forward a couple months, I get a call from her office and they're like, so your doctor wants to talk to you about your genetic results. And I was like, what do you mean? I already got those. Like, what are you talking about? Like, can I just all of a sudden become BRCA positive? Like, that doesn't happen, right? I was so confused. So I took my husband to the appointment with me, and I'm really close with my gynecologist. I love her dearly. And she's like, so you had a variance of insignificance on this CDH1 gene. And I was like, okay, what's a variance of insignificance? I had no idea. And that was the paper that I got that I didn't understand, and I just shoved to the side. She's like, so I'm sure you guys know this already, but like, variance of insignificance just means there's not enough data out there to determine if you're positive or negative for the genetic mutation, right? So then it turned positive, like there all of a sudden was enough information. So now I'm CDH1 positive. And she's like, the first thing she says is it predisposes you to a very bad form of stomach cancer. And I, like, my stomach dropped at that point because all the things that my dad went through.
Your dad.
Yeah, just came back like crazy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what? And it's weird too, because at the time my dad was diagnosed, it was around the time that Perry Guilford had actually discovered it, but that was all the way in New Zealand, and like we hadn't heard about it yet. And I had asked his oncologist if it was genetic and if I had to be concerned about it at all for me and my brother. And they were like, no, it's not genetic at all, you know, da da da. So anyway, with all of this comes flooding back. And then she's like, oh, and you know, you can prevent the stomach cancer by getting your stomach removed. She's like, I don't really know anything about that because I'm your gynecologist, but I'm going to send you to a genetic counselor and you can figure all of this out. And then she's like, and of course it predisposes you to breast cancer. So here are your options. We can talk about it later as time goes on.
So devastating.
Yeah. I bet you're glad that you had your husband with you though, because trying to like explain that to somebody, they don't understand it. So the fact that he got to be there in the appointment with you is probably
and he was able to like be just that other person to absorb information, because like once you hear that and your emotions start to get into play, you're like
jaw dropping.
Yeah, you can't concentrate.
I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, exactly. What is happening? Yeah.
So I have a couple questions though, and I want to pick up right here once you answer them. But I want to know, like, what were your dad's symptoms for him to like be diagnosed and then die 3 months later? Is just like, what was he experiencing to go get diagnosed?
So from what I remember, because I was like just fresh out of college, just about to start nursing school at this point, he had some like reflux issues for a long time. Other than that, I don't really know like long term what his symptoms were, but I do know that the day he went in and got diagnosed, he was basically like he was like a zombie, because his platelet levels were like 0. His white blood cell count was like super low. Like he was really, really sick at that point, and he took himself to the emergency room. They couldn't believe that he had walked in. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure he was having, like I said, we weren't like super close when all this was going on, and there's no way he would have like told me all of this stuff in that moment. I'm sure he was having gastric pain and like just different things that he wasn't really telling many people, because again, he was overweight. He probably thought like, oh, because he'd been to the doctor several times for these issues, even to the emergency room, and they kept telling him, you just need to lose weight, you just need to lose weight.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and they never scoped him or anything, which at the time, because my mom's a nurse too, she really questioned that. Like, why wouldn't they have scoped him before they actually did? And even if they would have, they might not have even seen anything. As we know, like once it's turned on, it's fast. But yeah. So I can't really answer
Okay.
that
And
question.
was he the only person on that branch of your family that has had stomach cancer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of out of the blue and very weird.
Like, do you know the history that your family tree? Does it go very far back to where you can look, or?
Yeah, so I've talked to my grandma, his mom, who's very much into all of that, and she doesn't know of anybody. Like, there's maybe one great 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 grandpa that had stomach issues like a long time ago, but they didn't even know what cancer was then, type thing. But other than that, nobody.
Wow, that's interesting.
Wow.
Wild. Yeah.
So
And
weird.
then like my dad's family, he's one of 6 siblings, and they grew up kind of downstream from a radioactive power plant, essentially. And his siblings have had issues from that. So like I always wonder, was it something like, is he the initial one and it was he, you know, the one that it got turned on and that mutation
Right.
just popped out of the blue? But Dr. Davis doesn't seem to think so.
Now,
But
were
we've never-
his siblings tested also? Did
They
have the same
refuse.
one?
All of them
They
refuse to test. Yeah.
It could be why yours is a VUS, because nobody had put that
Right.
their mutation into the database yet.
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
But even when it turned positive, nobody in my family had known about it even, you know?
Right.
So
So,
it's just-
I guess now it's in the database. So
Right.
It's not the US anymore.
Right.
Hmm.
So interesting. And then it took a while to convince my brother to get tested. He's negative, which is great. And I have a few cousins that eventually did test because they started having stomach problems and started getting freaked out about it, and they're all negative. I have
Oh,
lots of other
wow.
cousins who haven't even tested yet. So yeah, it's crazy.
Are there
I'm like,
are there cousins that are thinking about maybe doing it? They're just unsure of it, or no?
yeah, I'm sure like if something popped up and they started having issues, they'll probably think
Right.
about it. But right now they're like, no, why would I?
Right.
Kind
Yeah.
of thing. So
Right.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you felt that way at one point. Like, why did I have to do this?
oh
why did
yeah, like I'm sure you guys feel like that too. Like
Yeah.
ignorance is bliss, right? Like I wish I just never knew about this.
I-
And to top it off, you know, when you get your stomach removed, what is the study I read a long time ago that like 96% of people who have this gene and get their stomach removed, they end up finding cancer in the stomach, right? Or the precancerous cells. Well, mine has none. And I laugh as like a coping mechanism. So like at first, Dr. Davis was like, yeah, we didn't find anything. And then he told the pathologist to go through it again, and they didn't find anything again. And then I know you guys just recently heard that they brought in another person from Portugal or something to do more investigative work on it, and they still haven't found anything in my stomach.
Is
Yeah.
he still thinking that it's there? They just haven't been able to find it yet? Because I know he always says, like, we just haven't found it. It's like
Yeah.
finding a needle in a haystack.
That's
Is
his
that sort of
theory.
what-
Yeah, that's his theory. Yeah.
It would
But then the alternative is living with the fear of,
Yeah.
Exactly.
it's in there
Exactly.
growing and festering, and yeah.
And
then
there's no way I could have lived with that. Because like when I found
Right.
out about this, I mean, it did not take me very long. Once I talked to the genetic counselor, like I had already made the decision. It was just a matter of when. There's no way I could have lived any longer without doing it because I was a hot mess, like emotionally.
Seeing
So
your dad go through
from
it.
yeah, right? Yeah, I mean, to watch that, oh, I can't even imagine.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
it was
what I
brutal.
did with our dad, but
Right.
it's so hard. But so once you sat down with the genetic counselor with your husband and she told you all the things that needed to happen, how long from that point did it take you to decide to move forward?
I mean, it was less than a week that I was like, this is happening. It was just a matter of when. I mean, probably even before I went to the genetic counselor, because I did the horrible thing of like getting on Google and like, what's CDH1? And then I found the No Stomach for Cancer website, and obviously you see all this information on there. I was actually at work when I was going through it, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Because I was just a hot emotional mess. So I promised my husband that I wouldn't look online anymore until we saw the genetic counselor. But like once I saw on there that it was like, you need to get your stomach removed in order to prevent that, then I had already basically made the decision. It did not take me very long, because I'm like, I don't want my kids to see that, you know, I don't want my kids to go through what I went through with my dad, and they're young, and who knows what's going to happen. So
Right. Well,
But
and
it
they
did
also
take
see
me,
a strong mom who made the decision very quickly for her health and for her future.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's very good for them.
for sure. But
And
yeah.
you were, tell me again the year that this happened. I remember following you from the very beginning because you're
Do you? Yeah.
I read your blog. I read your blog when you were at the
Oh.
NIH. And I felt connected to you because it was right around that time when we were diagnosed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
remember. I
lost-
remember you
yeah.
being on the Facebook page and like really
Mhm.
trying to decide, am I going to do this or you're not, and that kind of thing.
I love listening to your story, though. I remember you wrote that they let you out of the hospital get something to eat. Yeah, I don't know. Your blog is really good.
Oh, thank you. That was
Yeah.
like really an outlet for me, just to like write it all down and like hopefully help somebody else, you know?
Well, you did. You helped me.
Oh, good. You're so awesome. I love how well you're doing post gastrectomy. I see your stuff and I'm like, wow, you are insanely, like, you are doing so good. I'm so
Oh,
happy for you.
thank you.
Yeah.
I know. I feel blessed.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I know. I always say if I can ensure that I have the same results as Polly, then I'll do it in a heartbeat. But
Yeah.
it's probably not going to happen.
I
What are the
don't know. I
chances?
feel like, Polly, I feel like you've made just a lot of good choices, you know, and being so healthy before having it and making good healthy choices beforehand really makes a huge difference, I think. Like everybody
Yeah.
that I've met through this whole journey, that's been the case. And for me, like, I did not listen to Dr. Davis. He was like, you don't need to gain any weight. And I'm like, that's crap. I'm gaining as much weight as I possibly can, you know, and I ate crap and I felt like crap before surgery because I had blown up like a balloon and I only gained 20 pounds, but still, 20 pounds is a lot. And I had a horrible time with recovery and so
You
many
did?
issues. So yeah, it's rough.
What kind
well,
of-
we want to hear, but how did you find the NIH? Because that was fairly a new study at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, so I was doing all the things like research wise to figure out who was going to do my surgery. And I had met with a couple people here in Phoenix and I was just not happy. I was like, these people do like one prophylactic gastrectomy a year. Like, no, I don't want them touching me. And they were talking about, you know, like J tubes and like all these NJ tubes. I'm like, I don't want any of that. And I found the Facebook group because a friend of mine, I was just talking to him at work and I was like, I don't even know, like, how do I get connected with other people that are going through this? He's like, why don't you look on Facebook? And I was like, oh my God, that's genius. So I found the Facebook group and one of the guys on there had messaged me and was like, hey, I'm in this study. You should totally look into it. I know it's like a far distance for you to go for this, but it's totally worth it. And so that's when my husband and I flew out and met Dr. Davis and just absolutely fell in love with them.
Good.
And then how soon after that were they able to get you scheduled for your surgery?
So I visited them in like June of 2018 and I was scheduled for surgery March of 2019.
Did that feel like a totally long, drawn out process? Did you wish like it could have been sooner? Or was that like the earliest he could get you in?
It wasn't the earliest he could get me in. At the time, it was like fine. I was like, this will give me enough time to like kind of live my life. I wanted to go through, you know, the holidays again with having a stomach and like all that stuff. And I didn't want to jump in that fast, I guess. Like, I don't know. I felt like I was kind of still not quite ready. And actually, one of the nurse practitioners there, after my first EGD with them and they didn't see anything, she told me, I remember this like it was yesterday. She's like, you really could wait a few years, you know? And I was like, what? Like, I can't believe you're telling me that. Like, my dad died from this and I know I have the genetic mutation and now you're telling me I can wait a few years? Like, not happening.
Right. No, not after
Yeah.
what you know.
Yeah. I was like, are
She
you
must
crazy?
not have CDH1.
Right. She totally doesn't. Mm-hmm.
Oh my
my
gosh.
gosh.
Okay,
So
so
tell
what
us about your surgery.
What year was the surgery? That was
2019.
2019?
19, yeah.
So
It
your
ended
kids
up
were 4 and 8 or
yeah, ish. I can't even do that math in my head right now. 7. My daughter was not even 7 yet. And then my son was only like 3. He had just turned
Wow.
3
That's
or
young.
4. Yeah,
That
they
I
were
get
really
I
cool.
Support with
like
your mom.
the people who have the surgery with babies. I that is amazing. I don't think I could do that. I had to cancel my mastectomy because I have a 4-year-old who wants me to pick her up all the time, and
For
I just
sure.
can't imagine doing
Yeah,
it with kids. So
it was
kudos to you.
definitely not easy. And I think the same thing. Like, there's no way I would have been able to do it if they were any younger. I am kind of fortunate that I feel fortunate that they were so young because they didn't really understand yet. You know, they didn't like see me going through, they did see me going through the hard times, but it wasn't like they just move on with their day and be like, oh, you know, whatever.
Right.
Mommy's not feeling good. It's fine. Because I feel like now it would have had a bigger impact emotionally on my daughter, for sure, because she's just my like emotional kid and gets physically ill from being anxious and things. So yeah, I think it was meant to be that way.
Yeah, it came at the right time then. So
Yeah.
tell us about your surgery. So you had it at NIH with Dr. Davis, and how did it go?
Yeah, how was
Surgery was great. Like, they kept me so pain-free with the epidural. Like, I was happy with surgery. And even after surgery, when I started drinking and eating, I felt so good. Like, I got to leave and go eat something outside the hospital. That was like the first, oh my gosh, I think I had like, this is so bad, but I had a steak quesadilla at a Mexican restaurant. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I can eat this and I can do so good. And I'm walking around and doing amazing.
What day was that? Yeah.
I know. I wish I could remember off the top of my head. I'm sure it's in my blog. I have to go back and look. But
were you still in DC?
if you were still in DC,
yeah, still in DC. Like, walked down to Bethesda and
wow.
ate a steak quesadilla.
So probably like day 8 or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it tasted so good. I just remember thinking that, like, oh, I can totally live this life if I can eat stuff like this. So that was all fine and dandy. And actually the pain team, I remember them coming to see me like a day before I left, and they were like, you are doing so amazing, but don't forget, like, people are going to downplay what you've been through because of how amazing you're doing. Like, don't take that for granted. Just know that this is a huge deal. Like, you need to go home and respect that and understand that there's still a lot of healing to do and all those things. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, I totally took that to heart. And I got home and was feeling so good. I did. I signed up for it was like a 5K, but they were doing like a 1 mile walk for people who just wanted to walk it. And one of my friends did it with me. And afterwards we went and got a bite to eat. And this was like the turning point. I got a pizza that had tomatoes on top, like sliced tomatoes. And that night I was like violently ill. And I don't know if it was the tomatoes or I think it was the tomatoes, because even though they were cooked, like that was like the real first vegetable I had had. And I don't know if it was the seeds. Rachel and I talked about it and we think it was like the seeds from it. Anyway, from that point on, it was really bad, like really rough recovery, like just feeling nauseous all the time and having to really force myself to eat. And it was bad for months and months and months.
Yeah, I wonder if it was like maybe, I mean, it was a 5K?
Yeah, we only did a mile walk.
She did a mile. She walked a mile.
I was going to say, I wonder if it was like dehydration on top of the new vegetable.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been, but like, it's not like we were walking fast. It's not like I was drinking water throughout the whole thing.
But that's weird.
So
from that point forward you struggled.
How soon after the surgery did you sign up for that?
It was soon. It was like just a couple weeks after surgery.
Okay, but that was the turning point. So it may or may not have been the tomato that caused your whole recovery to turn around.
Maybe it was your body like, oh, I just recognized I don't have a stomach.
Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah.
And then what did that do to your eating after that? Did everything start all over again, or?
It screwed me up emotionally and mentally, because I don't think we realize how much connection our mind plays on how we eat. And I was scared to eat, honestly. Like, so I would literally have to force myself. And then the post-gastrectomy diet that you're supposed to follow for 6 weeks, I know. Polly, I'm with you. I'm like, I just want to have a salad. I just want to eat like something good for me. And and Rachel kept telling me to add that, what's that additive that she tells everybody to put in their food? not put that in my food. It's so gross. I feel like it's breaking up. Are we good?
It's a little glitchy. I don't know why.
I feel the same way. Like the beginning is like a total mind game. It's like you're eating white stuff. Like nothing. And I kept telling her, I'm not getting any nutrition. There's no color in this. And she said, you're getting your nutrition with your vitamin. It was like so backwards thinking. Cause you're all about eating your nutrition, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I got so sick of eating all of that. I just would get so nauseous every time I would eat it. Ugh. Yeah. It's honestly the first.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the first year is kind of a blur, honestly, because it was just all this ups and downs. I remember my first trip back to the NIH, and that was like a month post-op, and I felt so awful, like flying and all the things. I was just, ugh. I don't even know what. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And so this continued, this uneasiness with eating and, trying to find a balance continued for a year.
A year. Yeah. And I remember Dr. Davis kept telling me, like, that's the turning point. At a year, usually people start feeling better. It's like your intestines wake up and say, okay, fine, I'll deal with this new way of life, And that's like exactly what happened. Is a year later, like the nausea just kind of went away. I ended up like getting on medical marijuana just for my appetite because I couldn't eat. Everything I put in my mouth just made me nauseous.
So
was it the taste of the food, or was it just a feeling that came over you?
It was more the feeling. Yeah, it was more the feeling.
Okay. How much weight did you lose during this year process?
I lost about 45 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you lost the 20 and then an additional 25.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. And how were your labs with all of your difficulty eating? Did they stay okay?
Yeah, they were all great. They were all great. I've never had, the only thing I've had an issue with this entire time is my iron. Everything else has been very good. Thankfully.
And how was that with your family and your little kids and not feeling well and like?
It was rough, real rough. Like my mother-in-law is retired and she lives pretty close to us. So she was able to help a lot. Like she would literally come over any day. I felt like I needed to just lay in bed and she would tend to the kiddos and all of those things. So that was a huge blessing. We're so thankful for her. It was really rough on my husband because he does not spend time in the kitchen. He doesn't like to cook or do any of that. So I tried to get people were more than willing to bring food to us, but for me, it was like, I didn't even know what to tell them to make that I could eat. So I was like, just feed my family. That's all I really cared about. And I'll just deal with whatever. So.
Right. Did you have foods that were your safe foods that you would eat and then you would just not stray from that?
Yeah, and then I'd get really sick of it. Like cheese was always a really good snack for me just because of the high calorie and high fat content. That usually sat well in the beginning. I'm trying to think back. Like I've always done a lot of avocados because those are amazing. Avocado toast, that type of thing. Eggs, which I would just choke down because I've never really been a huge egg person. But to add on top of it, the fact that you can't like eat them super fast and they get cold.
Oh,
super easy.
Cold
yeah.
Wow. Well, and so were you taking like the Zofran or the promethazine to keep your nausea at bay? Were you taking medication?
And it didn't help. Zofran didn't help. Phenergan didn't help. It just made me sleepy. So that's when I ended up going on medical marijuana.
And that helped with the nausea.
Game changer. Yeah. Like the nausea, it helps so much.
Good. So not only did it help with the nausea, but it gave you an appetite?
Both. Yeah.
Interesting. And were you able to eat quantities, like a normal quantity, or were you eating like the 20 ml or the 30 ml that they say?
I felt like I was eating pretty normal quantity when I could get it down. Yeah. Like normal for us, right? Like we can't engorge ourselves anymore, but, especially if I had a dose of the medical marijuana, I could eat like 2 whole tacos at one time at one point.
Well, that's good to know and good to share with others that might be struggling.
I feel like it helps just like relax your GI system, which is why people get the munchies from it, because it just like relaxes everything. And it allowed me to actually like eat more at a time. It was very interesting.
Is it a tincture you use or a gummy or?
It was actually a pill that the NIH prescribed to me at first. Yeah. I forget what the name of it is now. I'd have to look that up, but it's like a little round pill.
Oh,
do you take that still, or now that the nausea is under control, you're off of that?
Yeah, I don't really. Every once in a while, like I'll use it if I want to go out to eat and I want to have a good appetite. I'll take it. Typically, I don't.
Have you ever tried the digestive enzymes?
I haven't. I've actually thought about that, but I haven't. Have you?
I'm just going to make a video about this, but the other day I had horrible gas pains and I took a digestive enzyme and within 10 minutes I was like back to normal. It was crazy.
Yeah. And it actually makes total sense about why they would help us, because we're not excreting, we don't have the stomach acid that helps drive some of that. So yeah.
Interesting. Now, other than your diet, or your nausea issues, did you have pain or any complications that resulted from the surgery itself?
So about 6 months after surgery, I started getting this really weird pain, and it was right under, like, it wasn't even like epigastric. It was like right underneath my rib cage here. And it was it reminded me, I had that pain right after surgery, and Dr. Davis kept telling me it was just like the gas pain, even though I had an open surgery. Did you have this too, Polly? Yeah. And it would go up into my shoulder blade and all the things. So I started having that, and I just thought, oh, it's just my body recovering, because I was being assured by Dr. Davis that's all it was. But it progressively was getting worse. And it was to the point where it would happen randomly. We thought it was like related to what I was eating. Like Rachel kept telling me, you need to keep a food diary. Because after a month or two of keeping a food diary, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm too focused on the food. Like, I just need to eat. So I stopped doing that. She's like, you really need to get back to doing the food diary, because we'll figure out what's causing this pain. I'm like, it's not food related at all. Like, I could tell her right away, but I did the food diary anyway. So we didn't see any correlations, but because she was she thought it might've been dumping, and I'm like, it's not dumping. It's not anything like that. So anyway, it would get to the point where it was so severe that it would just my whole day would just be gone. Like, I'd have to lay down. And I ended up in the emergency room from it multiple times, because it was so debilitating. Like, I'm talking like worse than labor pain. And I had both my babies naturally. Like, it was awful. And sometimes it would come on and it would be gone within 5 minutes. Sometimes it would stay around for a few hours, and it was so haphazard, no rhyme or reason. So I'm trying to think when the first time Dr. Davis decided to bring me out to do a exploratory lap to see if he could see anything going on, like adhesions or something. Yeah, it was that bad. I can't remember when that was now.
Is this on your right side or your left side?
My left side, which is so weird.
That's where I got mine too, but mine's gone now. I don't know.
Oh, good. I'm so glad it's gone. But I think that, anyway, so they did an exploratory lap, and he didn't see anything. He was like, there were some adhesions in there, but nothing crazy that would cause such bad pain. So closed me up, went on my way, like whatever. And then it just was the same thing. It just kept happening and happening. And
I mean, to have a surgery and no resolution, how frustrating.
Right. So frustrating. And I mean, I was missing work. I was like, it was so debilitating that I would be done, like the episode would be done and gone, but I would be exhausted for like a day or two afterward, because it was that painful. Like, my body was just like, I'm from this. So then fast forward to like 2 years post-op. Gosh, it's amazing how the years just kind of blend together. But 2 years post-op, I went out. I actually had another episode, but this time it was on the right side. And I was like, oh, great. Like, I'm thinking like gallbladder issues. And I ended up, at that time, I had some like oxycodone on me from all the surgeries that I've had. So I was taking that at home, and I was like, it'll pass. It's just, I don't know what to do about this. It'll pass. Well, 3 days go by. And in the meantime, I'm in contact with Dr. Davis and everybody, of course. And on the third day, he's like, you should probably go get that checked out. And I was like, oh. want to go get it checked out.
No.
They're going to take me in the emergency room and give me pain meds and send me home. Like, that's what's happened in the past, and they haven't done anything. I mean, at one point I was admitted for this because I refused to go home because I was like, you have to figure this out. Like, we have to figure out what's going on. So anyway, go to the emergency room this last time, and it's my freaking gallbladder, and I had 2 stones that were in the bile duct, and that's why I was having so much pain on that side. But it was interesting because it felt like the exact same pain, just in a different location. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So anyway, Dr. Davis brought me out to Maryland. My husband went with me and decided to do surgery there. Again, like, I don't want anybody else touching me, you know, like my anatomy's funky. I don't feel comfortable. Like, if I were to go into some other GI, they'd probably try to scope me and do an ERCP or something, you know, and anyway. So I went out there, they did an MRCP for the MRI so they could really see these stones in the duct. So took me to the OR, and this is kind of a crazy story. I'm probably gonna get emotional from it, but took me to the OR, thought it was going to be like a quick procedure, ended up being very much longer than it was supposed to. And they tried to do it laparoscopic, very quickly realized that they couldn't do it laparoscopic, so they opened me back up. And they got 1 stone out of the common bile duct, and then the other one just kind of like disappeared. They have no idea where it went. So that's what took so much time, was they were trying to find it. They did a cholangiogram, where they do the study where they can see the flow through your gallbladder and stuff, to see if they could find it, and they couldn't find any of it in the OR. So they actually, Dr. Davis brought his partner, I'm totally blanking on his name right now, the other surgeon there that does the surgery too, in to help him, and they still couldn't do it together. So they closed me up, and they're like, okay, I think it's fine. Kept me in the hospital.
In there? Did they leave it in there?
They couldn't find it. So like, they couldn't find it. So yeah, it was still in there, and they were getting ready to send me home. And I'm like, can we just do some labs again? I'm not feeling super comfortable flying across the country when we have no idea what was going on with this stone. So they drew my billy and stuff again, and my billy was super elevated again. So they sent me into the MRI again and found the stones stuck in the common bile duct. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, I really don't want, I have to have surgery again. This is literally 2 days later. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Yeah.
And Dr. Davis was so sweet. He felt so bad. And he's like, let me talk to my partner that deals with gastrectomy patients too, but just not here at the NEH. They're just like right around the corner, and see if maybe he can do an ERCP. Maybe he's comfortable with that. And I'm like, okay. And he said, hell no. Like, no, I'm not touching her. Like the ERCP, you know, going down, doing the scope and trying to get the stone out of the common bile duct when you don't have a stomach is very challenging. So he took me back to the OR, and he's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to clip it here. We're going to clamp it here to make sure that stone doesn't go anywhere else. And I don't even know what happened. I woke up, it was supposed to be an 1.5-hour procedure. I woke up 4.5 hours later.
Oh my God.
I was pissed. Like, I was so angry. And I wasn't even angry at Dr. Davis. I was just angry at the situation. And I legit felt like this is going to be my life. Like, I'm going to be in the OR for the rest of my life, because why not? Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So they got it out.
They didn't. They actually, it disappeared again. And that's why it took so long. So they ended up having to cut into, they did what they call a duodenotomy, where they cut into my duodenum so that they could get to my common bile duct. And they did a sphincterotomy. So they made the opening of the bile duct bigger, so that if the stone was still in there, it would be able to pass on its own.
That's why it took 4 hours, or they had a third surgery?
No, that's why it took 4 hours. Yeah.
So like wow.
Gosh. And what does that do now to your digestion?
Right.
Like when you're having that, does it cause problems? Like,
yeah, the duodenotomy. So there are risks with it, because your duodenum doesn't heal very well once it's cut into, but the benefit of our anatomy now is that like our food doesn't even go through our duodenum. So it allowed it to heal up just fine. I haven't had any issues with it. So thankfully.
No problems with your gallbladder. Like, I don't know, does it like regurgitate or something?
So they ended up just taking it out. They took it out.
They took your gallbladder out completely. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Since then, have you had the pain again on the left side?
Every once in a while, there will be like a dull kind of pain. It's just kind of like, oh, that's there. And I just like if I stretch it out, it usually goes away. But no, nothing like severe. Thank God.
So I just wonder if there's a
Like
correlation.
a referred pain.
Yeah. Maybe
I know. That's what I was thinking too. But he did say when he was in there the first time trying to get those stones out that he really looked around and he saw some pretty significant adhesions right underneath my rib cage, and he like cleaned all of that out too. So who knows? That could have been part of the pain issue from the beginning.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
goodness,
now
you've been
since
through a lot.
yeah, you have. Man, quite a couple like the 2 years of this.
Yeah,
So
2 years.
that's a
Yeah,
lot.
crazy. Yeah.
So the
So the
not
last
being able to eat, and then the pains and the surgeries, and now are you five? How many years are you? 5, 3,
3.5.
3.5 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and are you like normal?
So
now?
good. Yeah,
Normal?
so good. I feel so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, other than like chasing my iron levels, but that's neither here nor there.
And
Yeah.
I know you have like your little packet of vitamins you take, and you do supplement with iron, but that doesn't keep them to the,
Correct.
to the normal
Yeah, it's
level.
crazy. So
How often are you getting the infusions? And can you speak to the infusions about like how does that make you feel and how often and all that?
It hasn't been like a regular thing, so I'm still trying to find out like my body routine. I feel like with all those surgeries and all the stress that it went through, it's still trying to figure out what's normal for me. And I recently got on liposomal vitamin C because my functional doctor recommended that because it can help with iron absorption. So I felt like that was really going to help because I saw a increase in my iron without having an iron infusion like a few months ago. So I was really hopeful for that, but then it ended up coming back down again anyway, which is fine. So as far as the infusions go, I have only had like a handful of them over the last 3.5 years. And I'm thinking I'm probably going to end up needing them at least once a year, if not maybe twice a year. And it's totally fine. You just sit there and you get an infusion. It's just kind of like getting fluids. They check your vitals and all that stuff. And for me, it usually takes about a week for it to really start kicking in. Because when I have iron that low and I need an infusion, I just feel super tired and super fatigued and all of those things. So it usually takes about a week for Nancy. I just saw her comment. Thank goodness Dr. Davis did the surgery. Yes, thank goodness.
Right.
Thank goodness for him. He felt so bad. Anyway, back to the iron infusion. It usually takes me about a week to start feeling better and like having increased energy. So.
And during infusion, do you feel icky, or is it just
no, not at all.
Water going in? Okay.
Yeah, it's just
and does it make you constipated when it's IV? Okay.
Nope, because it totally bypasses.
Is it your ferritin that's low or your iron that's low?
It's my ferritin that usually goes low before anything else does. And when it drops below 10 is about when I start getting symptomatic from it, which is interesting.
That's pretty low because I think normal is like 60s.
I think the lower end of normal is like really not that much higher than 10. It's like, I can't remember, 18 or something like that. But mine was as low as 4 at one point.
Wow. And how do you feel? Like dizzy and just lethargic and
like dizzy when you stand up too fast and lethargic and kind of brain foggy,
Yeah.
I wonder if that could be what's causing your sleep.
I feel better now.
You do? Good.
Anyway, okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you're doing good and like eating is normal.
You can have water. You can drink water. I want you to talk about your what ninja drink or what is it?
Ninja Red. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So it's a whole food. It's like a whole food supplement essentially, and it's made from goji berries or wolfberries is the main ingredient in it, and it's full of tons of antioxidants and vitamins and minerals and amino acids and so many good things. And oh my gosh, when I mix it with water, it just helps increase my water intake every day. So I like drink it every single day. You only take I mix 2 ounces in it with however much water I want for that moment. But it's got kind of a sweet, tangy taste to it, but it just makes water taste better for me, honestly. Most of the time I do enjoy just water, but like towards the end of the day, I start just wanting something a little bit different. So like mid-afternoon, I'll drink it. And it's been hugely beneficial for me and my immune health, really. That's where I've noticed the most of it. But yeah.
Right. Well,
What
if
is
you
it
need
called?
to add something to your water, you might as well add something that's going to benefit you more than just a flavoring.
Totally, like Gatorade or something, which we don't even do Gatorade because of all the crap in it. But
If this is something that somebody's interested in looking into, can they find it on your page? Your
yeah,
channel?
totally. Yeah, you can.
Like in your bio?
My link in my bio, and then there's the Young Living website. You can find it there for sure. Yeah.
Oh, is it from Young Living?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good to know. Awesome.
Yeah.
To come on your
I want to
site.
check it out too.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
just helps your immune system.
Yeah. So this is totally off topic from gastrectomy stuff, but
Okay. Yeah.
always as a kid, like this is just my story with it. So I've always been that sickly person. I was on antibiotics on and off like my entire life. My mom's a nurse and always thought like, oh, you're sick, you need a Z-Pack. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. And into adulthood even, my immune system has just been not the best. And I ended up getting my tonsils removed several years ago because I just had awful tonsils. And then I started drinking this about a year after I had my tonsils removed. I drink it every single day. And about a year into it, I realized that when I don't get sick as often, because every time something would come into my house, my kids would come home from school and be sick, I would get it like hands down every single time. And now that doesn't happen. Like, yeah, you're that way too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
it's the worst.
Yeah.
So that stopped happening. And then I realized when I do get sick, I can like kick it way fast. I used to get this cough that would linger for weeks and weeks and weeks. And now it's like so
You
much
need
faster.
I do need it. I'm going to be ordering some of that from you.
I would highly recommend it. It's so good. Not only does it taste good, but it's amazing for so many different things. I mean, there's stories galore about this stuff with like people who have chronic pain issues and they start drinking this regularly and they notice differences. And like, it has so many health benefits. It's crazy.
That's
Wow.
good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'll have to blog about it and post her link.
I know. I will.
And then, well, I'm glad that you are finding your new normal with your gastrectomy and that you're doing so well with it.
Me too.
One more question about gastrectomy is your DEXA scan. How were your bones?
Yeah, they've been totally good. I've seen a little bit of a decrease that first year in my bone density, but it wasn't anywhere near like problematic. It's still very normal and very good.
Good to know that.
It's huge.
And what are you doing about your breast since your grandmother had it twice and your mom? Are you still doing the surveillance?
Yeah, for now I'm doing surveillance. I'm having a really hard time justifying going through another major surgery after having 4 in the last 3.5. It was really 2 years, within 2 years, you know? So for now I'm doing surveillance. I don't know if that's the right answer or not, but that's what I'm doing for now.
Whatever is right for you is the right answer.
Yeah, you have to go with your instincts.
Because if you're not ready for it, then it just creates all sorts of other problems.
For sure. Did you both, because you both have had your mastectomies, right?
Mine is on hold.
Okay. Oh, that's right. It was scheduled and then, dang it. Did that bum you out?
She chose. I decided to.
My kids are very clingy to me and I can't tell them that I don't want to pick them up. So I'm going to wait until they're not dependent on me.
Do you know what reconstruction you're going to do, if any?
I'm going to go direct to implant because I have breast implants currently.
Okay.
So they can just use that same pocket, luckily. And I'm not going very big. So he said it will be easy to just go direct to implant.
Oh, good. Yeah. And Polly, you did implants too, right? Yeah.
I did. I had to have expanders, but I didn't know anything about mastectomy. And I've learned so much because I had implants too. And he created a whole new pocket and all these problems. I ended up having like 5 surgeries. It was a nightmare.
Oh.
But I'm done.
Good.
They look really good too.
Oh, thank you. Where did you have it done?
I had it done in Tucson, and then I fired that surgeon and had it done in Phoenix. And I'm actually probably going to end up having another surgery here because they are not perfect, but not yet. In a couple years.
Just you're not happy with your outcome thus far.
I should have had a lift. I don't know. And that's fine. Who cares? My husband doesn't care.
Yeah.
But I'm sure someday,
it's all about how you feel, though. I mean, if you're not happy with it, and you went through all of that, then you should go and
maybe.
make it right.
Yeah, I need to do a lot of soul searching. Yeah.
So, for me, I'm already like not flat. It's not like I don't have boobs. I do have boobs, but I'm like, I can't foresee putting a foreign body in me anymore. Like with just everything that I've been
So do
through.
you feel like you would just go flat?
That's why I think I'm having such a hard time with making the decision, because I don't want implants,
Yeah.
And I know there's like the flap procedure or whatever it's called, but I don't have enough fat on me anywhere to do that anymore. So yeah, I think that might be why I'm struggling to make a decision to do it or not,
Yeah, that's a big thing to consider.
I know.
Yeah.
We want to be happy with the way
How we look.
How we look. Yeah.
What do you know, Polly? I know you said that you've learned a lot about mastectomies, but like as far as the CDH1 mutation, it's a lot like the stomach cancer, right? Where it's more like an inner web, it's not easily found type thing.
Yes, the lobular is diffuse, just like the gastric cancer,
Mm-hmm.
the HGGC, or the diffuse gastric cancer. So when they do the imaging, they see like a shadow maybe. And I know sometimes people can feel a mass if they palpate, but a lot of times it's just like a thickening or like a heaviness that they feel. And even for me, I would get biopsies done, and they would tell me, oh, it's probably not cancer, probably benign. Or we went in to do the biopsy and we couldn't find anything to biopsy. And those were just kind of like weird things that are typical of the lobular breast cancer. But when I did my pathology, I had the in situ cells everywhere. Both breasts, under my armpits, and in my nipples.
Wow.
Everywhere.
Yeah. You did thing for sure.
Yeah. But to think that they never really saw anything on imagery for 6 years. Right.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. And I know like you guys started your Beaten Genes page because you're like, we're going to beat our genes, with healthy diet and all that stuff. So like, what made you kind of switch your thinking on that?
Well, a lot of reasons why, but I had signet cells found on 3 consecutive endoscopies. And just that mental thinking, like, that's in me, is it growing? And I went 2 years with 6 months apart without any signet cells, so I kind of had a little bit of like comfort with that, and just having Dr. Davis have his eye on me. But then we have a distant cousin that's stage 4 right now.
Young, she's 30, 31.
And it's just really hit home, like, what am I doing? Like, if this advances to 1B, I'm going to need chemo, and it's not even 100% curable, sometimes. So
you were always having stomach pain.
Yeah, and it was more mental. I just couldn't live with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I can totally relate to that, for sure.
This is the compounding stuff, and it was the right time for me. It needs to be the right time.
Right.
For sure. Has to be on their own journey and make their own decisions, for sure. I totally agree with that. And it's amazing, like, what our brain, because it is so mental, like what our brains can actually do, it can cause so much more harm just from being about stuff and worrying about it than anything. So,
and in like the opposite spectrum, like if somebody was having the gastrectomy and they weren't ready mentally and kind of feeling like forced into it, I can see how that would affect the outcome so much.
It does.
Because you would have like regret and say they didn't find the cells, and like, how do you mentally cope? I mean, I feel like that can just affect everything. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Mental preparedness is key.
Yeah, that's one thing I wish I would have known, because I know you went and saw a therapist or a counselor beforehand. I totally wish I would have done that. I saw one after.
Still do it. And
yeah.
if you do it, you should ask for somebody that knows how to do EMDR, because they can help fix things from your past that way. And it's really for like trauma. So it works really well, but it's really interesting.
I've heard about that, and I've not ever done it, but I've been so interested in it for sure, because it's so important to deal with your past stuff, to be able to move on and love and live your life. So
Yeah,
agree.
Yeah.
absolutely.
it was so fun talking with you guys. Yay.
I know you
too.
too. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I feel like I know you just because
I know.
I know, and then seeing you on the screen, it's like
Yeah.
it always feels like a movie star or something.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels that way. I get like starstruck, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So funny.
So do you have any closing statements you'd like to leave us with, or advice or wisdom?
No, like the only thing that I could say is exactly what we just talked about. Like everybody, you're on your own journey. Just trust in the process. Do what you feel is right for you in that moment, because that's the only thing that you just have to trust your process. And that's with life. That's not just with gastrectomy. That's with anything that comes your way, you know, you just have to trust it. So
absolutely. Yeah. And that's why there's no handbook for CDH1, because it's different for
individual
everybody.
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, thank you so much
for
Courtney.
helping to spread this awareness
Yeah.
and sharing your story, and we appreciate you so much.
Yeah, we
I
do.
appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you so much.
And
we hope you feel better.
Yeah.
Thank you. COVID.
I know. It's
I
almost
really want to ask you a side note question. I want your sourdough bread recipe. Where do I find it?
Gosh. Oh my gosh. So you're going to hate me for this because I don't really have like a recipe.
The starter, you don't have your starter is just like from a million years ago.
I started my starter it's probably been about a year now, and it's super easy. It's just time consuming to start your starter. There's an account that I follow. Shoot, what's her name? Kelly. Simple Life by Kels. I'll send you guys her profile. She's how I learned how to do my starter. And then I learned from, actually my uncle does sourdough bread too, and he taught me how to do it like super simple and not crazy complicated, because that's what I want, like easy. I don't need all the frill, you know, just like super easy. So it's more a matter of just weighing your ingredients, and I can just type that out and send it to you. That's
I would love
that.
Yes. Thank you.
That would be amazing.
it's so fun. So fun.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you so much. Have a good one, guys. Bye.
You too. Bye.